Kia ora, welcome to Paws for Thought. This week we're all about hens. We'll talk to people about raising hens in the city, and we'll hear about how we can support a campaign to prevent a huge factory farm being established outside Auckland. We've also got 3 copies of Trevor Newman and Renee Lang's fabulous book, Urban Chicks, to give away. We'll tell you later how you can win the book. But first, our last election year political interview. We've talked to representatives of most of the main political parties about their animal policies. Tonight, we speak to Damian Light to hear about United Future's animal policy. United Future received a mark of 4 out of 10 for its response to the animal agenda Aotearoa, the 3rd lowest mark of the 8 parties which provided responses. Let's welcome Damian Light. Kia ora, Damian, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Catriona. Thanks for having us along.
Do you have animals in your family?
I don't have any animals at my home at the moment, but my parents always had cats and dogs. So we had 3 cats and 1 dog growing up.
So the cats were the bosses?
Yeah, the cats definitely ruled the household, yeah.
And what sort of a dog?
He's a blue heeler cross. So not a big dog, but he's good. He's getting a bit old now, so yeah,
okay.
He's lost most of his bark. So yeah.
Is animal welfare important to United Future?
Yes, definitely. United Future is very much about families and communities, and animals are very much part of people's families, and they're very important. So definitely part of what we believe in.
We scored United Future 4 marks out of 10 for its response to the animal agenda Aotearoa, but one of the items you ticked was about the link between cruelty to animals and domestic violence and child abuse. So that's something that your party accepts?
Oh, definitely. I think the way we treat the vulnerable and those that can't look after themselves is definitely a reflection on who we are. And I think that reflects in the way we look after animals and our children and our other vulnerable people and species, yeah.
So how do you think that can be addressed? Because we have shocking domestic violence statistics and shocking animal cruelty, and it doesn't really seem to be improving, does it?
No, and I think we're doing some really good stuff around domestic violence. I think we're going to see some change there. But animal welfare, I think we need to concentrate more. One of the things we want to do is increase the number of animal welfare inspection officers that we've got, because there's massive amounts of issues, and I don't think we've got enough people out there on the coalface actually investigating and addressing them. It's not fair. I think I saw the other day there was something like 14,000 cases investigated a year, and it just doesn't seem, we just don't have enough people focusing
That's
on
right,
it.
there's only about 55 inspectors to cover the whole country of more than 100 million animals. So you'd give, presumably if you want to have more inspectors, you'd provide additional funding?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. We need to fund these things because we need to actually follow up on the perpetrators. And one of the other things we're quite keen on is focusing the punishments on the brutality of the crime as well. Sometimes people are lucky and they get away. The animals, they do horrible things to them, but the animals survive because of the good work by some of the organisations like SPCA and things. And so the perpetrators get off more lightly because the animal hasn't died, which is just wrong. So we should be, the punishment should fit the crime, regardless of if the animal survives or not.
And because in quite a few aspects of our law, animals are actually just treated as things, and so in some cases the hurt to the animal, as you say, isn't considered. It's just only taken into account if there's been a financial loss to the human.
Yeah, which is completely wrong. I mean, animals are, obviously there is definitely a financial aspect, especially when we're talking about livestock and things like that, but animals are still very important, and they are members of our society. We should be treating them with respect, and it's a shame actually that we don't.
You must have seen the pictures of battery hens and pigs in horrifying conditions.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's disgraceful actually, and it's really surprising that still goes on in New Zealand, and definitely United Future is very keen on moving away from that. One of the things we are concerned about, we don't want to ban it outright straight away, because one of the things what will happen is that the prices will go up, and those who can't afford them will be getting them from overseas and places like that, and we don't want to do that. So we want to be able to change the market in New Zealand so we have much better free range animals treated properly, but without causing an influx of overseas imports.
Yeah, because there would be no point in trying to have the animals treated better here, but animals overseas and still in horrible conditions. How would you do that? Would you have some sort of ban on importing pork products, or how would that be done?
I think one of the things we need to do is work with our trade partners. One of the things we're quite keen on is sometimes you absolutely have to ban things and regulations are required, but what we prefer to do is work with them and work with our trade partners, and also obviously the people within New Zealand to work to a point where that's just not acceptable anymore and they can realise it. And I think the society pressure And organisations such as this and all the other ones around the country who are putting pressure on and raising their profile, I think that's really good. And I think we are starting to see a shift towards people preferring free-range organic foods, things like that, which are much better for us, but also for the animals as well.
Will United Future be revising or having another look at its animal welfare policy, considering it only got 4 marks out of 10 for the animal agenda? Because you're talking about factory farming and caging pigs and hens being undesirable, but actually United Future didn't tick that to abolish factory farming, so it sounds like you might be thinking about moving on a bit from that response.
We've actually just reviewed all of our policies, and we've just released a manifesto which is document with all our policies in it, and as part of that we re-looked at the animal welfare policy, and it's a little bit, there's still a bit of work to do there. We don't have an outright ban, but we definitely want to move toward it. I think one of the things we probably need to do is spend a bit more time working out on a timeline for it, so we've got a date in mind. We definitely want to get there, but I think we probably need to be a bit more specific about how we get there.
But you'd be looking to put definite time frames in place, because what seems to happen is that even if the government or agencies say that forms of factory farming are going to be abolished, then the industry groups seem to fight back or threaten court action, and nothing ever actually happens, or it's put off for another 10 or 20 years. So do you think there would need to be very specific times?
I think we would definitely, that's probably one of the solutions we need to look at, is more specific timelines. And also I think it gives the industry time to actually adjust and to adapt, because you're right, otherwise they will just continue to resist. And I think if we set some timelines down, and they have to be fair and reasonable, but I think we should have a cap that starts to reduce of the percentages of what we accept.
And what's United Future's position on testing on animals?
So in general principles, we don't like it, and we want to reduce it. We've had some bad press in recent times, but we definitely don't like doing it. There are instances where, particularly for medical reasons, it is required. But I think innovation in science is taking us to a point where we won't need to do it anywhere near as often, and that's where we want to get to. But when there's human welfare where we require it to keep human lives safe, I think it is required. But things like cosmetics is just not necessary. I don't understand why we're still doing that, to be honest.
And are you aware of the studies about the inaccuracy of animal testing when it's applied to humans, and the fact that then you're actually causing agony to animals and the tests are not reliable for humans?
No, I must admit I'm not an expert in that. I do know that there is definitely some differences. I mean, clearly we're not the same, and there's still a lot of work that needs to go on into that. But no, I wasn't aware that there's a big gap. Is that around medicines or around cosmetics and things like that, or is it?
No, I'm thinking more in the medical field.
Yeah. Okay. No, I wasn't aware of that, no.
Do you think New Zealand could aspire to become the first country in the world to ban testing on animals completely? I
think we should. We used to be a world leader. I mean, back in the day, we first country in the world to give women the vote, things like that. We were a world leader. Now we sort of seem to be lagging behind, and I think that we should change that. Absolutely, we don't want to get completely out of step with the rest of the world, but I think we need to be pushing ahead, and I definitely think that's somewhere we should be heading.
Sounds like a good note to leave it on. Thanks very much, Damian.
Thank you.
Now it's time for the Pause for Thought win and fail of the week. The Pause for Thought win this week goes to campaigners lobbying to stop a factory chicken farm from being set up near Pukekohe. Credit Farms wants to farm 310,000 chickens on the farm. Hens need to be in small flocks and be able to move freely between outdoors and an indoor shelter to ensure their welfare. We'll hear more about the opposition to this farm later in the program. The Pause for Thought fail goes to those political parties which don't have animal policies and which didn't provide responses to the animal agenda Aotearoa. We can't tell you what the Conservatives and ACT think about animal issues, as we have no information about their views. We assume they don't consider animal issues to be important, as they don't appear to have animal policies and didn't provide responses to the animal agenda Aotearoa. Now let's talk about hens. You're watching a video clip of hens Belinda and Eric van Essen rescued from a battery farm. You can see that one of the girls is now the head gardener in the household and is keeping Eric up to speed with what he's supposed to be doing. She sat on his shoulder for over 10 minutes as he was digging. You can see another hen walking around and pecking in the dirt. Watch the hen on Eric's shoulder repeatedly flapping her wings. This is something hens in battery cages can never do, as there's not enough space. Hens need to be able to go outside to exercise, take dirt baths and peck and scratch. Let's welcome Belinda and Eric van Essen. Kia ora, Eric, welcome to the program.
Hi.
And kia ora, Belinda, welcome.
Hello.
Can you tell us a bit about the hens that we just saw in the video?
Well, that's Indy with my husband Eric. She is a recently rescued hen from the sanctuary in Sean Bishop from Warkworth.
We've had her on the program.
Yes, yes. This is Indy's first few days of freedom in our property, and she has just become in love with my husband.
And are you in love with her?
She's lovely, yeah. The scene that you saw was me just digging in the garden, doing my usual thing, and I think she was a little bit sort of afraid and sort of jumped up onto my shoulder while I was on my haunches, and then I sort of stood up and she stayed on my shoulder. But they're an absolute delight, yeah.
How many hens have you got?
We've got 6. 4 of them have been rescued from being battery hens, and 2 of them we bought from a farm up in Helensville.
And so what's it like when you get battery hens at your place? How do they react? And
well, you can see from Indy that she isn't fully feathered yet. So you do have to be careful when you get not fully feathered hens, introducing them to a flock of feathered hens. You do need to keep them separate for a week or 2 so that they can get used to each other. So there is a little bit of pecking order that you need to monitor. So once you've kept them separate for a while within view of each other, you do need to introduce them. Because our hens are free range, they can do that quite easily because they've got a lot of space to get used to each other.
Why did you first get hens?
I think it was that the children had been introduced to chickens, hens, through my parents-in-law, who have a lifestyle block up in Kaiwaka, and sort of thought that would be a nice idea to have the same here. And we'd heard also that it's become a little more sort of fashionable, and there've been a lot more sort of urban sort of chickens around, and so we thought, yeah, why not? And we found out that we were able to have as many as 6 in an urban environment, and so I think we started with 4, and we've now worked our way up to 6.
And what do you need to provide for them? So they need a house?
And we've got a really good chicken coop. I mean, you can get a variety of them. I mean, you could have a far more modest one, but we've decided to get one that's quite large, plywood, high wear, and we'll get many, many years out of that. So a little bit of investment there and a bit of a chicken run. And then we feed them chicken pellets that we buy from RD1, and cost about $30 perhaps every couple of months. And we also get some chicken mash. We then feed them sort of scraps, vegetable scraps and the likes, or some bread, leftover bread, and generally they're very happy. They also, of course, eat grass and just sort of scratch around looking for any old bugs in the garden, so they keep themselves quite entertained in the garden.
And what sort of care do you need to give them?
You do need to take notice of them and their health. You need to feed them daily, obviously. You need to check their water. You need to keep their water fresh. You need to check the coop for mites. You also need to look at your hens fairly regularly to make sure that they're not suffering from any illnesses, and then learn to know what to do about it, such as if they do have a common mite called red mite. So we do monitor them fairly carefully.
And is there any reaction from neighbours to you having hens?
I think that there's no negative reaction. I think they're quite interested to see that we do have chickens, and especially our nearest neighbours across the drive from us have a couple of young children, so they quite look forward to the opportunity to come over and look after the hens if we're on holiday. And I think we sell some free-range eggs to a couple of our neighbours, and they love that opportunity to kind of have fresh eggs, and the kids earn a little bit of pocket money. So I think that most people really enjoy the idea that we have some chickens.
And what about your kids? Do they help to look after the hens?
They do, and they love the hens. They really do. They spend a lot of time with them. The ex-battery hens especially are quite friendly, and they want to be with you all the time. They follow you around, they want to know what you're doing, they want to be on your lap. The kids get a lot out of them. They've also gotten a lot out of seeing the battery hens recover from being quite a sad-looking little hen to a beautiful, glossy, fat, plump, happy hen. And that's been really valuable for them to see that.
And do the hens have different personalities?
Certainly, yes. And there certainly is a pecking order. You know who's boss at any one time, and that is Mrs. Brown at the moment.
And does she keep the others in line?
She does, she does. There is, I think there might be a coup soon. We have a new one called Beyonce.
Oh.
And she was named.
Is she a prima donna?
She is. She likes to dance and sing, yes. And they certainly are lovely, and there are certain ones that will come up to you and need to be with you all the times, and then there are the others that want to be a little bit more independent. But they're funny, and they love to be doing what you're doing.
So do they quite often help you when you're working in the garden?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's the opportunity to kind of get active, and so I think that when I'm outside, and I'm often in the garden digging and planting trees or just weeding, and that's their opportunity to come and sort of be inquisitive and get in the way basically of your spade and what you're digging over. But I guess they're after the opportunity to sort of get some worms or some bugs, and so that's their favourite pastime really, to harass me.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, Eric, and thank you, Belinda.
Thank you.
Now it's time for News of the Week. Dr. Stephen Best gave a speech about the subversive and revolutionary nature of animal rights and contrasted rights with welfare during the opening plenary panel at the United States National Animal Rights Conference last month. You can watch the video on AR Zone. The bombardment of Gaza is killing not only humans, but has also wreaked havoc on animals in the Gaza Zoo. Many have been killed, while others are existing in filthy conditions. Cages have not been cleaned for weeks. An Israeli army spokesperson said the army was investigating claims it had fired missiles into the area where the zoo was located. A crocodile huddles motionless in an inch of stagnant water next to the rotting corpse of a stork. A baboon picks listlessly at the ground of a tiny pen it shares with the dried out remains of another monkey. A South African 12-year-old has been given an Animal Action Award. Kaganya Lefoletsi was born with a physically impaired foot and is teased at school by other children. He began visiting Claw in Johannesburg when he was 4. He now volunteers at the centre and is a member of Claw's Saturday Kids Club. He says he loves dogs and learning about them and now wants to be a vet when he grows up. Last month, the International Fund for Animal Welfare surprised Kaganya at school to present him with an award honouring his commitment and compassion. Christopher Loncarrick and Nicholas Rogers are awaiting sentencing after being convicted in US federal court for conspiracy to violate laws preventing people from transporting or selling illegally caught wildlife. The pair charged hunters up to $7,000 each to hunt mountain lions and cougars around the Colorado-Utah border. The men had already caught the animals and placed them ready for their clients. Some animals were shot in the leg before being released from cages, so they could not wander away before clients shot them. Others were held in place by snares, which were undetectable to clients. India is in a catch-22 situation. As the country protects endangered species from wildlife poachers, it's putting lesser-known animals in danger. India began efforts to protect tigers, rhinos and other endangered species 4 decades ago. However, lesser-known animals such as the pangolin, star tortoise and monitor lizard are becoming endangered as a result. Poachers are turning their attention to them as it's perceived they're not well protected. Young people in the American state of Wisconsin are caring for rescued animals as part of their summer camp activities. 8-year-old Dakota Stewart said she came to Heartland Camp each summer as she wanted to be with the animals. The campers start each day either observing the animals or else doing chores such as preparing the animals' food, filling pools and setting up feeders. The camp director said that mucking out was one of the favourite activities for children. Alamula said she enjoyed it because she knew she was helping the animals and giving them a clean place to sleep. Now let's talk more about hens. Intensive farmer Craddock Farms wants to open a hen farm with 310,000 hens near Pukekohe. Campaigners concerned about hen welfare are lobbying against the proposal. You can go online to the Facebook page Ban Chicken Layer Cages to find out more or to join the campaign. Now let's talk to Peta Berry about the proposal and why she's trying to stop it. Kia ora, Peta, welcome to the program.
Hi Catriona, thanks for having me.
What's Craddock Farms planning?
Well Catriona, Craddock Farms, who already operate an egg production facility on Colston Road out near Pukekohe, have applied for a resource consent to actually operate another one in a little town south of Auckland called Peta Berry. It's going to be 310,000 caged chickens over 10 sheds, so it'll potentially be 10% of the entire production for New Zealand. Quite significant.
And what's the process? They've got to get a resource consent for the farm, do they?
They do. So at the moment what's happened is they've actually applied to the local council for resource consent. Where that's at, they've deemed it limited notification, so what that means is the council has sat on the application and reviewed it and decided who would be impacted in a more than minor way. Sadly, it's only been notified to 4 surrounding properties. 2 of additional properties have signed a waiver saying that they don't mind if the facility is next door. So those are the only parties that can actually provide a submission either for or against the proposal, and then there will be a hearing based on that where an independent committee will sit on the matter and review it further. There may be some questions. The submitters will get to present their position as well as the applicants presenting their position, and then based on the information at the hearing there will be a decision on that matter.
So if there's 10 sheds, that's 31,000 birds in each shed? Yeah.
That's right.
And you're campaigning against the farm, why is that?
Well, I think in this day and age we really need to move on from caged farming. I think the social appetite for any type of caged farming is just not there. So I think it's very poor that in this particular environment that the council have decided that only 4 parties should be involved in the decision making on such an important matter. And so caged farming also just goes against every natural behaviour that animals like to exhibit. Even though they'll be using colony cages, it's still effectively the same size. If you imagine an A4 piece of paper, even though the cages will be big enough to house 40 to 60 hens, they will still only get about that much usable space. They can't flap their wings, they can't use their heads in a normal manner, they still can't scratch and dust bathe and perch properly. They are going to provide some form of a nest box, but it's just some plastic panels hanging down, and there's only one nest box amongst 60 hens, so the competition will be heightened by that, which means the aggression will also be heightened, and that will cause bullying within the actual bigger sized cages.
And the bigger size, each hen actually only gets about a credit card sized bit of extra space, so it's really hardly much more space.
It is,
yeah.
It's insignificant. At the end of the day, I mean, they still never get to dust bathe, they don't get to see the sun, they don't get involved in any normal behaviours that a chicken likes to exhibit, including pecking for grubs and perching away from predators. Even though there is a type of perch, it's metal, they're still on a sloping wire floor. It's just really unsatisfactory.
And so what are you doing to try and prevent the resource consent from being granted?
Well, mostly public awareness, although I think the public is very aware of intensive farming issues at the moment. There's been a lot of campaigns, particularly by Farm Watch, who have also been following our Facebook page and looking at it. So what we're doing is we've done a couple of flyer drops. We've held community meetings because the community is in the majority against this proposal. And So we're just really trying to get people on board by following our Facebook page, inviting them to the hearing, which, you know, if they would like to do so, they can.
And just what date's that?
So that will be the 5th and the 8th of September in the Pukekohe Council chambers.
And anyone can attend that?
Anyone can attend it, and it would be really good if we could get as many local residents in particular as possible, because ultimately the council will be looking to them for to see which way that they might sit on the matter.
And what else can people do? You've got a petition as well, have you?
We have. We've done a paper petition, so we've got nearly about 800 signatures from local residents, and that will go a long way, particularly as there are only 2,500 people in the Pātamahoe region. So we're hoping that will signify that this is a matter that should have gone to public notification, not limited notification. It really is not appropriate that 4 families get to sit on this particular decision. Going forward, we are looking at an online petition, and that's going to be a long-term project if necessary, but we're hoping that we won't need to do that.
Good luck with the campaign.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
This was the last program in the Pause for Thought series. You can find out political parties' policies about animal welfare by going to the Animal Agenda Aotearoa website. There's more information on our Facebook page. If you're attending political party meetings in the run-up to the election, remember to ask the politicians a question about animal welfare so they know voters care about it. On our Facebook page, you can see daily 3-minute actions you can do to improve the lives of New Zealand animals. And remember to vote on 20 September. Now, we've got 3 copies of the fabulous book, Urban Chicks, to give away. It showcases Auckland's backyard hen lovers. You can read about Julie Bissot, Wendell Nissen and David Cunliffe and his wife Karen Price, who all keep hens in their backyards. There's also information about different breeds of hens and what hens need to be happy. We'll give the books to the first 3 people who email their addresses and ask for a copy of the book. Email catmac@orcon.net.nz. Thanks for watching. Ka kite anō.